Perfect.
Thanks, Geneva. Now I'd like to introduce Jennifer Griffiths. Jennifer is the Executive Director at Food Processing Skills Canada.
Thanks, Tracy and team. Good afternoon, everyone. This is an exciting day, I think, for Speaking Food. We've been looking forward to this topic for some time here at Food Processing Skills Canada. We've really been focusing on emotional intelligence skills, skills for success, the soft skills that are needed for not only the workplace, but for life as well. I think we're impacting both areas at the same time. We've been delivering this type of training, and I think we should feel proud as an industry sector that I think we kind of led the charge in this area, starting with frontline workers, showing them what it means to be more empathetic, communications, teamwork, and so forth, and then now moving up to the supervisory level. In terms of, coaching skills, what does it mean to be a mentor, effective feedback? You'll hear more about that today, but we're really seeing the impact and the change across the country when it comes to these types of competencies and skills in the workplace. And the data is showing it's not just at the workplace, but it's also affecting them at home and during their life and in their life as well. So I've been learning a lot throughout this whole these last few years in this area as well. I believe I'm more of a compassionate leader, impactful leader, and so forth, but learning a lot more on how to manage, even our own staff and relationships and teams when it comes to being emotionally intelligent leader. So today we have two gems with us who are going to bring you further along this afternoon, and we're talking about becoming an effective, emotionally intelligent leader for your workforce. First up, we have Dr. Lisette Reyes-Paulino, a global leader strategist with over a decade of experience in learning, design, and leadership development. As the visionary co-creator of the ACACOS leadership program, which they'll talk to you more about, she holds a PhD and a master's in learning, design, and technology from Purdue University. So join me in welcoming Lisette with us. So happy to have them. They're awesome. She's really awesome. Happy to have her as part of the team. And then none other than Raja Hatoum. I'm sure you've seen his face in many different platforms and areas. He's a seasoned business psychologist and emotional intelligence expert specializing in e-learning, experience design, and executive coaching. As the co-creator of ACACOS and the social emotional learning program, Raj is dedicated to enhancing soft skills in the food industry through strategic partnerships with Food Processing Skills Canada. So welcome to you both, and take it away.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jennifer, for that amazing introduction. We are delighted and thrilled. It's been an amazing journey, a partnership with you and Food Processing Skills Canada. So we're super excited to be here, super thrilled about this opportunity. Thank you for inviting us. It's amazing.
Yes, likewise. Thank you, Jennifer. We're looking forward, and we're going to start the webinar with Lisette.
Awesome. Well, welcome, everyone. Super excited as we kind of, the way we have designed the program, and because we are geeks in terms of learning design, we love to hear from you. So we have designed this webinar to be highly interactive. And so you're going to see some polls may pop up here and there. You have some questions too. We want to hear from you. We kept them a little short because we also understand that sometimes, we don't have like fast fingers, not all of us, so that you can keep your also answers short. And then at the end, as we have a Q&A. We're very excited. We're going to talk about leadership and great leaders and what's the foundation of that great leadership. I know in the end, and Jennifer mentioned it beautifully, that has to do a lot with emotional intelligence. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that, and we're going to explore the topic a little bit better. But let's just get it started. That's it. Raja, do you want to take us to the next slide?
Yes, of course.
So we already did introductions. I think, that Jennifer did an amazing job covering that. So
yes, Jennifer covered this part thoroughly. So here we're going to start today with our agenda. Okay, and what we will be talking about on this coming hour. We're going to talk about like a food industry current challenge. We're going to talk about engaged workforce element, great leadership on EI. When we refer to EI, we're talking about emotional intelligence. And the EI-based leadership model that we're going to explore together. We're going to talk about the accelerate your EI skills. So we're not only going to be teasing you with some information over here, but we have like a tangible projects and program which can benefit you. And we will end with the Q&A. We're going to start our conversation here today with you on this webinar with a story, okay? Is the leadership in the food industry blinded by the light? You know, this tale of misplaced keys, a leadership parable. Imagine a chilly evening, having just returned from a long night out, a man realizes as he reaches his front door that his keys are missing. His heart sinks, and the keys are his access to the comfort and warmth of his house. He decided to search for them, but instead of retracing his steps or pondering where he might lost them, he head straight to the bright light area beneath a street lamp near his house. That's, you have the image on the screen. The keys, he's hoping that these keys will be glinting under the lamp glow. A concerned passerby notices his struggle, offers help. They ask, "Are you sure you lost your key in here?" With a hint of despair, the man replies, "No, I lost them somewhere back on my way home. But this is the only place bright enough for me to look." This simple story, often recounted as like parable of wisdom, illustrates a profound truth that resonates beyond its simplicity. It's about how often in life, and leadership in particular, we search for solution in the most convenient places under the metaphorical bright light and logic and established method. We do this even when our problem might require us to search in a less lit places, maybe darker, maybe, we require to tackle that kind of comfortable or uncomfortable area of emotional understanding and empathy. As leaders in the dynamic and demanding field of the food industry, this tale serves as a reminder. It prompts us to consider where we are searching for our keys or solution to leadership challenges. In the right places, are we addressing issues merely where the light shines biggest, focusing solely on the logical and tangible? Or are we also willing to venture into the neon stream of emotional intelligence, where the keys to truly effective leadership often lie? We can explore next how this analogy helps us look beyond the comfort of the light, pursuing the change, and look beyond the logic and look within the emotion of possible solution. In today's webinar, we will explore this journey, understanding how emotional intelligence can illuminate our path to become more effective, empathetic, impactful, and servant leaders. Let's embark on this quest together and understanding and applying emotional intelligence in the workplace. As a segue for next, Lisette gonna take us into some more understanding about business challenges in the food industry.
Thank you, Raja. And this is interesting in the sense when we think about blinded by the light, is sometimes it's just simply say, hey, sometimes we have a problem. We look at things even externally. And when it comes to like problems that are like human related, right? And even business related, because in the end, every business involves humans, right? It's always customers, it's our employees, it's our talent. Sometimes we tend just to look, beyond. Sometimes it's about looking within. And that's a little bit of the trick. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But let's think of together, and you're very well aware of the challenges in the food industry. We just want to kind of stop, and say, hey, what are really the things that are impacting the industry right now and towards the future? And so we wanted to first engagement there to answer in a poll. Raja, if you can pop up that poll, like what are some of the challenges that the food industry is currently facing? And then how do you think that these challenges, like which one are you most concerned about? We know that, technology, right? It's making like a fast introduction, like adoption into the space, robotics, AI, all of that is a concern. High market volatility, right? And this is a global concern. Labor shortages, and we also know that the food industry is impacted by also a high employee turnover. But I would like just to get a sense of like which one of these, and we know you already know about these ones, but which one of these is most concerning to you? So feel free to vote using the poll. And let us know if you can't see it on your screen.
Yeah, the poll should be normally in the middle of your screen, but if you have touch screen, sometimes it hides behind your browser. So on your Zoom, you can find a switch which is called poll and quizzes. You click on that, hopefully it will appear.
Do you have any responses coming in?
Geneva is in control.
Yes, we do.
Awesome. Okay.
78%. Would you like me to end the poll now?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
let's do it.
Perfect. So you should be able to see.
Interesting. So there is concern across the board, but labor shortages, 43% of you, right? They're most concerned about labor shortages. And with that, of course, like finding the talent, right? And recruiting the talent. Then you're also concerned about high employee turnover. So together, right, that's more than half of you mostly concerned about talent, aspects of recruiting talent, attracting talent, right? And keeping them engaged in the industry. 15% of you are concerned about technological advancements, right? So that's another key one too, and all the market volatility, right? That is also impacting inflation, food prices, and all of that. Thank you all for voting. So again, majority 20 plus 11. So we have 31 of you. They are concerned a lot more about what issues that are related to talent and finding the right talent. So let's thank you all for voting. So let's hone in a little bit more into the talent aspect, just because the majority of you are concerned about finding the talent, right? And keeping that talent engaged. So this is research from Mercer. They have a turnover survey that they released this year. And when they collected the data, they identified top industries that had kind of the highest turnover rates. Of course, certain levels of turnovers are, usually healthy, but when they, it's important to understand the stats and to see what's going on to see if there is actually an issue. And when we just look at retail and wholesale, right? Many of, like when it comes to the food industry, you can classify many businesses within this bucket there. 37.4% turnover, that's the highest. And then the other ones also have a high turnover, like compared to what must be more of a healthy turnover rate. The average turnover rate for that year was 15 percentage points. And that was a little higher, right, for this year than it was in 2022. 2022 was about like 12%. So all of these are way above. And so it is not just that it's concerning that you're seeing it, right, happening at work, happening in your businesses, but also data that organizations are collecting on turnover is just shining a light and saying, hey, this is really an issue. It's a problem right now. And it will likely continue to be an issue in the future if leaders don't step in and the food industry starts to think differently and don't get, too blinded by the light, right? And it looks exactly in the right place to solve these issues. So let us think a little bit about now. If talent is a key problem, right? Attracting the talent, engaging that talent. So how do you think the food industry can really attract and retain talent going forward? What solutions do you see? Please use the chat and let us know what you think. How do you think the food industry can better attract, engage, and retain talent? We see some responses coming in. Very good. I appreciate the participation. We have some fast fingers here. Okay, better wages. Remove a stigma of working in the food industry. I love that. There's a lot about mindset there. Lean, very good. We want to hear, okay. Improving food safety culture, very important culture. That is very key. Great workplace culture, with another one on culture. There's a pattern there. Very relationship with the staff. We're starting to see now connection to skills that are very much tied to being emotionally intelligent, right? High pay, better medical coverage. So this is about benefits, better benefits, training and development. So key, so important. That's also creating a learning culture, right? Effective training, housing in my community for workers. So more like benefits for workers, upskilling, their current talent, but also upskill employers to be great leaders. Oh my God, Chloe, you said like that was very wise. Great comment. That's true. You hit the nail on the head with that. Start with the high school level. Most people do not know they can go into this career path. Very important. Yeah, start early, right? Get people excited about that. And that goes back to how do you start working on that, like fixing, right? Changing that stigma about working in the food industry. Market the jobs better, work culture, a lot about culture. Oh my God, and we have so many more messages here. I won't be able to go through all of them, but I do see a pattern. There's a lot about improving culture in the food industry, right? Improving the reputation. When you talk about, fixing those stigmas, it's about brand, it's about the reputation, building a different story for the food industry. It's such an essential, right, industry. Like we all need it. We couldn't have survived during the pandemic, without all of you in the industry. So we need to get all hands on board in a shifting mindset to create better workplaces. So that's the key, right? You want to better attract, you better engage and retain talent. You have to really work hard in creating and training the best leaders that you can. So it's about leadership. So we're going to continue to talk a little bit more about it. I don't want to make it just about what we know, but also what the research is saying about it, right? What you just said here has been summarized by research. Thank you, everyone, by the way, for participating. Amazing insights, very good solutions here, and a great pattern there about culture and leaders. So McKinsey did a little bit of work to understand what are the elements, right? So it's about creating a great workplace, which in the end translates into leaders need to design a better workplace environment, culture, and that translates into a better employee experience. So by delivering on a great employee experience is that leaders are able to create that sticky, delectable workplace that will attract people, that will engage them, retain them because you're developing them, right? Creating that culture. So McKinsey did this study to help kind of have a sense from employees on the aspects of the experience that they were more satisfied with. And so look at the first one, 89%, and this is the highest score, are talking about that they're satisfied when the organizations deliver on great leaders, right? 88%, highest score. And so what they want is inspirational. They're focused on development, growth and development. It's really helping them with their careers. Then they talk about great company. So when you said about reputation of the food industry, this is what it is. That element is about values, right? It's about culture. It's also about being a high-performing organization, so having business results, but not only caring about profits. On the flip side, if you think about newer, younger workers, and I talk about the food industry and younger workers because it provides so many opportunities for Gen Z, right? Younger kids. And I know this because I have friends and their kids right now. I say kids, but they're teenagers. And I'm so proud of them because most of them are working in supermarkets, right? They're already in the food industry. They're gaining so many valuable skills there. And many of them are super excited about their jobs, right? So look at just the opportunity to help them build a career if you can create also a great company. But these kids are also interested in not just making money. Of course, everybody, wants to make money. So it's about wages, as you said, also in benefits. But they also want to know that their jobs have a larger purpose. That is not just about like, hey, I'm just, putting things, on the aisle, like, packing apples, or it's about something larger. I'm serving a larger purpose. So they also want to contribute to society. They also want a great job, right? So 81% agree that they are a key element for them to attract them and retain them is to have a great job, meaning keeping that job interesting, right? Providing development opportunities for them so that they can see a path forward. And 76% agreed that they also want great rewards, right? So these 4 buckets here kind of summarize, many of the ideas, like the responses that you already share about potential solutions. But what is interesting is look at the 89%, right? Like the highest number there in terms of saying deliver on great leaders. And then 76% is like, yeah, I want great rewards. Right. So again, people are motivated by rewards. They want, higher pay and all of that. But we've seen cases of people say, hey, I may take a little bit of a lower pay if I have a great work environment, if I have a great boss, if the organization offers, great opportunities for development. Maybe I'm making a little bit less now, but I have a leader that's coaching me, that's helping me grow. And I can see, a path forward where I can potentially even make more money than what I'm making right now. So it's about connecting that experience also to those rewards. They are important. They will continue to be important, of course, but it's a combination of elements. So and then what are the drivers? What are the drivers for to engage the workforce? So this is kind of very similar to that research from McKinsey as well, right? So you would see commonalities here. So people want really great work. Right? So we know, like from research on engagement, it's about engaging with work, but they also want the management environment to be also great, to be healthy, to be inspiring. They want trust. They also want trust and meaning from leadership. And it's interesting that trust is here and so key, right? Trust is the foundation of high-performing teams. And Raja, a little bit later, is going to talk about elements of emotional intelligence and emotional literacy. And for many of you, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to give you that little information now. Sorry, Raj, I'm going to spoil it for you.
Go ahead.
Trust is an emotion. So if you think that employees are asking leaders, right? And it's shown by research that trust is the foundation of high-performing teams. So think about it. Isn't the role of a leader also to be kind of like the leader of like people emotions? Like you're leading people. So people, we're mostly, right, design human beings to be emotional beings. And now knowing that trust is an emotion, like how can leaders build that trust, right? How can they create that emotional capital in the organization so that everybody feels that they can trust their leaders and their organization? But people also want to learn and develop, right? And they want also the ability to have flexibility. This is such a key driver because the workforce needs are changing and they'll continue to change. Flexibility is going to be key in the food industry, manufacturing industry. I know it's challenging to think about working from home, right? But flexibility doesn't have to be working from home 1 or 2 days per week. Flexibility also looks, as we've seen from research, people are talking about flexibility. Even if you have an on-site job, it's about having a good manager, right? It all comes down to that manager. Having a good manager, an organization that's very clear about the need for flexibility even within the job. So people, if they have kids, can they have the opportunity to change their shifts, right? During the day? Can you give them 1 or 2 hours to go to that, dental appointment or medical appointment, with their kids? It's about finding those opportunities even throughout the day to provide that flexibility so that people can have a better work-life balance. So if we look at all together, right, the research from McKinsey and this one that I just presented, that's part of research from Bursting by Deloitte, it all comes down to great leaders, right? It is great leaders that create a healthy, inclusive, empathetic culture. Leaders are the shapers of a great culture in an organization. And so this is just a little quote here from Best Places to Work. You've probably heard of the Googles and all, like, you know, high performing companies, global companies, talk about all the cute, like, stuff that they do. They allow employees to bring animals to the office. I don't see that happening ever in the food industry. Bringing your pets wouldn't be, you know, like, you know, for safety reasons and all the reasons, but, you know, they can bring their pets. They can even have a nap if they need to like, you know, sleep for a little bit, because it's it's healthy for the brain, and they can just, you know, relax. They offer ping pong tables, like free lunches. All of that is interesting. But it's not just about creating those type of perks. In the end, it's about creating great management, creates exciting workplaces. And I love what he says, Gersten says, that actually those organizations that are best places to work, right? They have a soul. And if you think about the definition of a soul, what is the soul of a human being? Is something very intangible. It's not transactional. It's not something of, hey, come work for me a few hours and here's your salary and, you know, get out, right? A soul is about creating that deeper emotional connection. It's almost related. It's almost, if you think about it like religiously, right? Like that is spiritual connection. So it's about creating, again, managing those emotions in the organizations, and leaders, right, are responsible for that too. So Raya, maybe we go to the next and then explore this with you, because we already know that we have great leaders on this call. And so we want you to like engage in the chat and help us understand what you think your definition, what makes a great leader. And sometimes, just to give you a little bit of guidance on how to go about answering this, think about the best leader you had. We all had good managers, bad managers, but we also had exemplary managers, great leaders in our lives. So think about the qualities that, you know, those leaders had, you know, and the impact they had on you. And just let us know what do you think made them so great. And I see, you know, comments already popping. Raja, what's coming up? Lots of great insights there.
There is a lot of insight coming, like Deborah is saying engagement, Lynn is saying compassion, empathic. Michael is saying individualized support for each of their team, adjusting approach and being flexible depending on needs, level of experience, and career goals. As you see all here, the theme is, you know, is moving around what you are presenting for us, Lisette. You know, like Jones is showing empathy. Again, the same line. Jessica, let us try things. Allow me to make mistakes and help me learn. And this is Jessica here, is very profound in her answer. You know, like, because we can't grow if we don't do a little bit of mistake. So what people, we call it in psychology, like this, a calculated risk. Like we, as a leader, we need to take a bit of calculated risk to help people explore and give them feedback. We like when you learn emotional intelligence, you learn a little bit more about tools you can use, you know, to adjust, give feedback, coach people for result, and things like that.
Yeah, and Raja, I just wanted to add to that because it's such a great answer. Creating, like, the concept is called, like, in psychology, like that a space is called psychological safety, right? So leaders that create that environment of trust, who are very authentic, right, who are there to serve their employees, right, and the team, and people know that they care. Also create that safety, you know, that kind of, not only like the safety culture. When you think about the food industry safety culture, you think about following procedures, right, in terms of like how to handle food and all of that. But the safety culture also should be about psychological safety, because that's where, you know, when you have your kids and they're just like learning to walk and they fall, you don't criticize them, right? You don't make them feel like, oh, they're not smart enough. You just encourage them and say, that's okay. You know, you can try again. And so that's the type of leaders we also want in organization, the leaders that create that environment where people feel safe to try new things, right? And that's where that inspires innovation and creativity.
Yes, I want to highlight here as well what Gordon and Hannah is sharing with us. You know, they want, you know, a great leader, they provide regular coaching and feedback, not leaving it for the annual review. Because at the annual review, people forget what happened, a year back or like 6 months back. And that's what we encourage, an emotionally intelligent leader or a manager or a supervisor have to be, really addressing feedback. Feedback is nice to be served fresh and hot. Like the closer to the event, the better the feedback.
Yeah. Role modeling. So now I also have here, yeah, Zenaida said role model and fully present. How powerful that is to be fully present. And that sometimes we see someone comes to work, it's like, okay, they're physically here, but their minds, right? Their hearts, their souls, they're somewhere else, right? They're preoccupied. And it's interesting because the notion sometimes of being, hey, you have to be professional at work, right? Maybe many of you have heard of that. And what does it mean to be professional? I leave the person in the house and I just come with like the title comes to work. No, you bring your entire selves to work. We bring the person that we are with the experiences that we had, in our lives, whether we were born somewhere else, we bring everything that we are to work. And that's the beauty of it. Unfortunately, sometimes, there are, certain biases about what great leadership is. And then it's those aspects are shut down, and it's very sad. Those are workplaces that become very, very kind of boring. They don't engage your workforce. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. This is so great. Very, very good insights, really good answers. And when I see all the comments, what you said about empathy, accountability, providing flexibility, being good communicators, and being, enthusiastic, that requires a lot of self-management from the leader. It requires the leader to really be in tune with their emotions, understand their emotions so that they can better lead others, right? And create that type of environment where people feel like they can, again, have psychological safety, that they feel they can have good conversations with their leaders, be transparent. And so it all comes down to emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, and Raj is going to define it for you, but Daniel Goleman is a leading author of the emotional intelligence textbook, and he's been, as a professor, researcher on also social emotional learning, and as well as education. And he says it brilliantly for many years now that we do require IQ. We go to school to kind of elevate that IQ, right? And we think about content, we think about reasoning and working memory. That's, intellectual quotient, like that's intellectual intelligence. We spend like more than half of our lives sometimes just schooling, like depending, right, on how far you take it, but it's about like learning to think, right? Like critical thinking and, working memory, all of that's IQ, and that's critical. That's super critical. We're not saying we don't need it, we do. And technical skills too, they're important and they're always going to be critical. But emotional intelligence is what really makes the difference. And I know there is a Latin word here in the quote, sine qua non of leadership. Sorry if I mispronounced this, but it means that it's just essential and foundational. I remember personally, like going to school, and my dad was always about academic achievement and performance, and you have to get the best grades and always work on your math and always like, be good at Spanish and history and all the subjects. And when I got to university, I realized that I was good as, book smarts, you can say, right? I got good at understanding of how to learn. I got really good grades and all of it. But I met a friend in college that made so much possible for me just because she was a lot higher in emotional intelligence. So she was the connector. She was the one when we had homework that was very hard. She was the one who knew everybody in the room. It was just like say, hey, we're struggling with this. We need help, right? And sometimes we didn't even have a computer. Can we go to your, and she would just like, facilitate the resources that we needed to succeed. And I learned a lot from her that, oh my God, that's something I need to work on. That aspect of being more emotionally intelligent and developing relationships. So yeah, we need both. And again, over time, what makes us really successful is emotional intelligence.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisette. Now, Lisette put into perspective really how important is that. And now we're going to continue a little bit with some numbers from the United Nations on the career tools activity. You know, they say emotional intelligence account for 58% of performance in all type of jobs. So it is like the strongest driver of leadership and personal excellence. The good thing, like here, that we're going to use that as well on the next few slides. You know, 36% of people are able to accurately identify their emotion when they happen. So if we can't identify our emotion, how are we going to be using them intelligently, right? That's like a question to ponder about. About 2/3 of all people are controlled by their emotion, but are unaware or unable to recognize them, and therefore unable to use them or, you know, understand them. Now, here now we reach to the point, what is emotional intelligence? You know, like we talked about blinded by the light, and now we talked about emotion at the beginning, and now we're going to try to put a little bit more exploration into like, what is emotional intelligence? If there's one thing I want you to remember, you know, emotional intelligence is like a muscle, you know, like the more you train that muscle, the better it becomes. And emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive emotions in self and others, and use and understand and manage these emotions in self and others. So basically, it's all around perceiving the emotion, use emotion to facilitate thinking, use the emotion for understand how they change, how they, you know, how they dial up, how they dial down, you know, how they become, because emotion like can build up, you know, like frustration can build up into something really anger or something like that. So this is like understanding these and managing, how to know how to manage them is very important. As well, emotional intelligence is around, you know, like being optimistic and goal-driven. What we use in our approach here, Daniel Goleman, as introduced by Lisette, we speak about this framework of emotional intelligence. This is exactly, you know, similar to what Daniel Goleman has, the theory wrapped down around this these 5 competencies. But we name them a little bit more easy to understand. But what we see over here, like the upper side, is what we call self-mastery. You know, when I know my emotion and I know how to handle them, I acquire the self-mastery as a leader, as a supervisor, or as a manager. This is the cornerstone of emotional intelligence, you know, because you can control your emotion, but we're not asking you to control other people's emotion. We're going to inspire other people's emotion. So here, this self-mastery, like knowing my emotion, is just like being emotionally self-aware, having more confidence, because the more you are confident, the more you know your strength, you know your weakness, and you know how to work with others better. Lisette emphasized a lot, you know, like about adaptability, being adaptable, resilient, you know, and having self-control. All this comes from these 2 self-mastery components. If you move to the lower part, you see the social mastery, what we call a social mastery. And here is about recognize other people's emotion and then manage a relationship with these other people. Recognizing other people's emotion is so powerful because that's like your social awareness. It's the empathy. And empathy, I think a lot of people mention it on the chat, you know, being empathetic. This empathy is understand the world from other people's perspective. Empathy, at its core, it enables diversity and inclusion. It enables respect for workplace, because now you start seeing the world from other people's perspective. And in the managing relationship, you know, as well, it's the core of your leadership. That's where your leadership acumen resides. You know, you can't have effective communication if you don't build active listening, because then you cut people off and then you don't understand what they're thinking about. As you see, like on this webinar, like we emphasize, we want to hear your say. We want to know what is your input, so we can maybe a little bit explain or expand. So active listening and empathy are core on the social side, this social mastery. And we're moving towards the middle, that you have motivating myself, or this is like self-motivation. And basically you motivate yourself and others. Like these people are like the fire. They are like self-triggered. They are the passion, like everybody, like they like to work with them. These people are like the optimistic. They like to take a bit of risk, and they drive by goals. And you see like goal-driven life is very effective. Is as well, we want you to be emotional, we want to explore this emotional, but we want you to be emotionally intelligent. That's like the balance between the two words. That's what we're aiming for, right? Now, the servant leadership, we're gonna browse quickly on it. You know, servant leadership is a leadership philosophy focused on serving others, you know, like prioritizing the needs of others and fostering the growth and development of others. Lisette gonna go through quick browse through some statistic, and then we will continue. We want to be on time for you.
Yeah, what we want to say about servant leadership and why we're bringing it here is sometimes many organizations talk about, yeah, we want to have great leaders, but they don't think about what will be principles, what will be the philosophy, right? That's going to permeate, you know, how we define leaders. And as many of you said, how we have leaders that model, like they're a good example to employees too as well, and to others, right? Because leadership skills and emotional intelligence skills, they are transferable, right? You take them everywhere, right? They have an impact at work, they have an impact on your personal life, as Jennifer said at the beginning. The servant leadership is shown to be basically about serving others, as Raja mentioned, and is based on emotional intelligence, right? Because leaders are there to be those listeners, to be empathetic to others and put the needs of their employees first, right? And have that concern for employees and being empathetic. So what I want to say a little bit about it is servant leadership has been also studied in the food industry. If we go to the next slide, we're going to just show very briefly an example of a case study. This was a study conducted using surveys by the University of Illinois in Chicago, and they worked with this restaurant chain to get an understanding of how like a servant leadership culture had an impact on different business outcomes. And just because at the beginning of the conversation we talked about one of the key challenges in your industry is talent, right? Labor shortages, retaining talent. So for this study of Jason's Deli, like a chain of restaurants across the US, they survey over 900 employees and 71 different locations, 71 different restaurants and 10 different locations. And they found, like numerically, quantitatively, they found impact of a culture of being a servant leaders. 6% they found in every store improvement in job performance. 8% there was an increase in customer service. So now all employees, because their leaders really cared and they created that culture, as a result, they also wanted to care more for the customer too and the customer experience. And look at that grouping percentage improvement in employee retention, right? You know, who doesn't want to be treated better? Who doesn't want to have a leader who cares a lot and who helps them with their growth and development? 50% increase in employee retention, right? So again, that's a critical solution. Great leaders who are servant leaders have so much potential in the food industry. And I'm excited just to see, you know, where you continue with your leadership to promote this type of like leadership philosophies and approaches. Raja, you want to take this on?
Yes, learning and leadership are indispensable to each other. And that's what we're trying to promote, you know, upskilling, learning. On this slide, we're going to ask you here another poll. We're going to see a poll popping up and ask you, what primary emotion can you identify from these 4 groups? Pick the one group that consists of primary or basic emotions only. You know, we tease the idea about emotional intelligence, but we agreed that we cannot be using something intelligently if we're not aware of it. So what do you think are the primary emotion? Here you have 4 groups, A, B, C, D. One of them is only correct. So which are the primary or basic emotion on this group? Is it group A, is it group B, is it group C, or group D? We're going to give you 30 seconds. We're running short on time, so we're going to be quick on that. So speedy finger, we appreciate.
Yeah, just take a stab at it, right? It's anonymous, so we just want to know how much you already know about the primary emotions.
All right, we're going to end the poll, and if you can kindly share. So look at that. We have joy, sadness, fear, and love. Group A, 50%.
We have lots of loving
I was
people
gonna
here.
give you guys a hint in the chat, but I didn't.
Okay.
So you see 17% is saying group B, anger, submission, trust, and curiosity. But we have the correct answer is C. There are surprise, anticipation, joy, and anger. You see, this is aligned with the UN research about emotional intelligence that only 36% they're aware about that, like their emotion or like what's the primary emotion. And here, I don't want you to feel bad, but just I'm trying to emphasize the point. So what we're going to see here in front of us, what is emotion? We talk a little bit about emotional intelligence. What is emotion? So emotion consists of two words, E and motion. E means energy. Motion means in movement. So it is energy in movement within us. And these emotions, they carry data, they carry information. Not looking into this emotion, we cannot have a better decision making. But when we get emotion into the place, then we get more variety, because we our radar read much more spectrum over here. As well, emotions are like the palette of colors, they mix, they merge, they make new emotion. Like all the plethora of thousands of emotion we have, they stem out from these 8 emotion. As you see, we look at them as opposite, like in opposite color or in an opposite mix. So you see sadness and fear. So here, joy on the yellow, opposite is sadness. Like what is joy is telling us, so what is joy basically? It's like a feeling, a great pleasure or happiness. It's telling us, I'm satisfied, I have a well-being. Opposite to it is sadness. Sadness is an emotion characterized by feeling of, I'm disappointed, I'm hurt, I need help, that kind of stuff. Trust, which is Lisette mentioned for you, trust is an emotion.
I gave you the hint already.
Yeah, so it's a sense of reliability or confidence in someone or somebody. It's foundational for building relationship and social bonding. Disgust is the opposite way, is a strong feeling of aversion. It's like you want to stay away. Fear is the emotion which trigger fight or flight. Anger is a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, but it's natural to perceive wrong or injustice. This is very good. There is no bad emotion, just all emotion are created for some reason. So like if you want to fight in injustice towards you, anger is a good emotion over there. But if you want to use the anger at work, it's not something good. So it depends on the perspective over here. And then we mentioned as well on orange, you have anticipation, the sense of looking forward for something. Opposite to it is surprise, which is a feeling by something unexpected. So you take you by surprise. And this was like a little bit fast trying to introduce you to the word of emotion and emotional intelligence and understand emotions carry data. On this slide here, how we accelerate the development of your EI skills through our program. We have, we pioneered on this program on the food industry. We are the first to think about, food industry. We need to really upskill our people with this social emotional learning. And here I present you the ACACOS program, which has a big story around the name, which means a star in Cree language, and Refine Yourself program for manager. What do you see here? We try to provide you tools like EI training, self-assessment test. Like in the questions, I had a question there. Maybe we attend to this with the self-assessment test. There's a lot of social, emotional, and emotional intelligence tests which help you, understand your ability around emotional intelligence. We talk about goal setting. OKR and ACACOS STAR. We talk about coaching and mentoring, and we give you tools like the EI coach model, which help you coach your people. and communicate with people with more emotional intelligence, we emphasize a lot on reflecting and journaling, feedback, workforce recognition. Like there's always an aha moment in our webinars when we say, okay, like 5 to 1, you have to give 5 positive feedback for 1 corrective feedback in order to keep the stability, that the person doesn't understand your feedback as an attack or something. And here, finally, what is the innovative strategy for workplace or workforce challenge in the food industry? Obviously, what we are promoting, upskilling. We have our people, we want to look after them, we want to create great leaders who look after their employee and help them to stay and retain them. Maybe there is other solution. People think, immigration, other people think, other stuff. But we believe as we are Canadian and we want our people to be upskilled. We need them to be successful. We need our organization to be the best in the world. Second strategy is promoting well-being through emotional intelligence, education and learning, and servant leadership, as Lisette emphasized on that during this webinar. Fostering empathy and active listening, like these 2 words, they are the enabler of everything, inclusion, respectful workplace, communication, collaboration, which is all you want to have in your work. Finally, growth opportunity, what we call CFR, which is improved conversation, feedback, and recognition for the employee. And that will reach us to conclude on time. We still have a few minutes to address few Q&A. Lisette, if you want to see the Q&A and entertain some answers, and I can answer the rest. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Okay, so we have some great questions here. First one, what is the primary benefit of emotional intelligence for a leader? This came from an anonymous attendee. Do you want to take that on, Raja?
Of course. You see, primary benefit of emotional intelligence is the leader will become more self-aware. When the leader, like all leaders, majority of you, to become leader or like a manager, of course, like you are smart, life, how to make the business, how to run the operation. But emotional intelligence would help you to be more self-aware. It will improve your communication, it will improve your collaboration, it will improve your empathy and interrelation with others. It has like a plethora, really, like around 26 sub-skill set. Emotional intelligence can tweak and tune your skills around emotional intelligence and leadership.
Yeah, I second Raja's responses is great, right? The greatest thing about emotional intelligence is you become more self-aware, and that's the foundation of everything great in our lives, right? We need to first understand ourselves. Going back to the light, look within. We have to look within. If we think about empathy, we have to be empathetic to ourselves to be able to even forgive and be empathetic towards others. So all of that, like we have learned, right? Like we need to learn to love others. We also need to love ourselves, understand ourselves. And that requires a space for us to be getting in, more like that introspection and being self-aware. What are my strengths? What are my skills, right? What are my areas of opportunity? Do I feel like I know it all? Like I know more than everybody else? All of that is we have homework to do. And it's a lifelong journey of being self-aware. We know that, right? Second question, how do you measure emotional intelligence? So there are many tests, assessments developed, right? There are psychometrically validated tests by different authors that will allow you to really get understanding of your emotional intelligence skills, where you're at, what level of understanding of like emotional literacy you have. If you participate in the program, you're gonna go in our Refine Yourself program. We have included a self-assessment there that will allow you to really understand where you're at in your journey. And as Raja said, emotional intelligence you can develop, right? All the skill sets are part of emotional intelligence. Once you look at your results, you can look at your areas of opportunities, and then we can help you out with a kind of personalized program so that you can develop that skill. Another question, this is from Senaida. What's one piece of current advice you can give for leaders and those aspiring leaders? I would say be intentional and deliberate about developing your emotional intelligence skills. Find where you're at, and then be deliberate about it. Doesn't have to take too long, but even like if you just say, hey, I'm just going to grab Daniel Kahneman's book on emotional intelligence. I'm going to sign up for the program to learn more about myself, develop that self-awareness. Do that, right? Start doing it, going on that path, because it makes a difference. Not said about us, but there's research that shows that leadership potential, those with high leadership potential, who are great leaders, have also high levels of emotional intelligence. How's it? Okay. We have one last one. I know that people are dropping because it's a little bit we're over time. What are emotions that combine disgust and sadness and surprise? That's one for you, Raja, there. What are emotions that combine disgust and sadness, and then sadness and surprise?
All right.
Test it now on your model.
That's like the test, and then Lisette, I think he's referring to this slide here.
Yeah. What I did want to say with emotions, again, there are like 8 primary emotions, and they combine. And it's very sad that we, even though we, as human beings, we're made up of emotions. Our brain is mostly an emotional brain until the age of 25, according to neuroscience. It's very much emotions, like what we deal with, right? Our prefrontal cortex, the critical thinking part, doesn't develop, a lot more or mature a little bit later. So we need to start understanding like how these emotions combine. We feel them, but sometimes we struggle to call that combination of, sensations that we feel something. Did you find it, Raja?
Yes, and no, this is like here feeling remorse. This is like a complex emotion, and the most sad emotions here when you mix the two on the bottom, like sadness and disgust, give you that kind of remorse. Disgust and anger give you contempt. But love, as we mentioned in the beginning, like as well, is like a primary diet where you have trust and joy. You give you love. And this is only the first level. Like when you're going to go to much more level, it becomes much more complicated, and then but it's very logical and makes sense. So thanks for your question. Was that the last one?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think that was the last one. Wow.
All right. Thank you.
This was really, really great. And maybe a treat for those of you who stayed on till the very end. As you notice, that they're mentioning a program called Refine Yourself. And that's a new management program that we're putting together for emotional intelligence. We are launching that in January. There's going to be 2 cohort dates. It is by invite only. We only have 50 spaces available. If you are a manager or in a management position at a food or beverage manufacturing facility, maybe you're an owner or a VP of a smaller organization, that would be a good opportunity for you as well. But it is going to be a 4-month program. There's 4 live workshops that will be taking place. It's going to be in the evenings. It wouldn't disrupt any of your time and so forth, but it is a fully funded program. And it's really cool. It's catered. It's brand new. We've just put this together. We want your feedback and input. It is a pilot program, and it's rolled out nationally, but we can expand it if everything goes well and as we see fit. So you have the 2 awesome team leads for this program who will be managing that. So if you're interested, you can email myself directly with your information, title, contact information, phone number, and so forth, to see if we can get you into one of those 50 spots available. So it's called the Refine Yourself Emotional Intelligence Program for Managers. So that's great, but this was awesome. Such a great job. We're just scratching the surface here on this topic. There's a lot more to learn we can dig into. Raja always blows my mind as we get into more psychology of this area. There's so much more to delve into. And as you see, Lisette is like boots on the ground. She's all about leadership, and that's what she does. So thank you both so much for your time today. This was a great session, and we're looking forward to many more. So I'll throw it over to you, Tracy. I don't know what our next session is, and the ones coming up for January.
Yep, so thank you
Yes.
very much, Lisette and Raja. I'm with Jen. I find it fascinating every time you guys start talking about this. So it is a really interesting subject and very applicable to everybody. And so you can see this and how it affects everyone, not just leaders, but also, you know, the regular employees. So it really does make a difference. And it's something we seem to have drifted away from, is our emotional intelligence. So I'm really glad to see it coming back around again and becoming such an important thing for everybody to understand and to practice. Well, next month in January, we are going to be having our next speaker on our webinar series, and it's going to be David McNally, and he's going to be talking about artificial intelligence and digital transformation in your business. So that will be another really interesting topic, as everybody's dealing now with AI as it becomes more and more commonplace in your job, in your organization, in your life. And that will be on Thursday, January 25th at 1 o'clock. So watch for our invitation to join us then. In the meantime, I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday and a happy new year, and we will see you in the new year.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
you.
We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Fun.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. What a joy to be together today with everyone.
Yes.